Before we jump in, a gentle reminder that the stories shared on this podcast include discussions about chronic illness, medical experiences, mental health, and other sensitive topics. While we share our own experiences and perspectives, this podcast should not be considered medical advice. If you have concerns about your health, please speak with a qualified healthcare professional. We believe these conversations matter, but we also know that they can be a lot. Please take what you need, leave what you don't, but most importantly, take care of yourself while listening. Welcome to Outside the Waiting Room, episode number 3. I am Harriet.
And I'm Olivia.
We are very excited to have everyone back with us. We started our podcast about a month ago where we released 2 episodes, one about Olivia's journey and then another about my journey, and unfortunately took a little bit of a break, which was not planned. And it's probably a really important part to remember around living with chronic illness and how nothing is ever planned. So, Livia, do you want to share what you feel like sharing around what's just recently happened and how you're going, most importantly?
Yeah, so this is a true reality of living with chronic illness. We had these plans and we had all our episodes scheduled out, and then chronic illness happened. So I got really unwell with a bug that came home from school from my daughter, which we know happens. When bugs come home, I know I'm probably going to get them. But unfortunately, this one hit a little bit harder than usual. So I went down with a lot of infections, an ear infection, sinus infection, and then we thought we were getting on top of it, and then it turned into pneumonia. So that was 3 rounds of antibiotics, trying to get on top of things. I'm feeling a lot better, but we're still in the process of recovering.
Yeah, it was a big surprise. You and I are very used to getting sick, and we don't always know how sick.
No. Yeah. You're so used to pushing through things, and I think you just have to. But then the symptoms became worse and worse, and this is not my normal, and it happened quite quickly. I was just so thankful my GP was just so onto it. Like, we need to get a chest x-ray and we need to check this. And then, when you get the phone call from the nurse being like, the doc just needs to talk to you, it's not generally the greatest news. Having pneumonia has been really scary, if I'm honest. I've never had it, so I'm so fortunate that I've gone this long without. And I know it's been quite triggering and quite scary for you as well, being the one helping me and supporting me through this, because you know that side of it so well, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is really scary, and it's so easy to get when your immune system is already not functioning the way it should. And these types of infections are really common, but I think what's probably not quite understood around when you get something like pneumonia or even sometimes just a common cold, what that does to our bodies. And it's not just the pneumonia that causes problems. Often lupus then decides, now's the time to flare.
I'm used to the lupus side of things, but it's the infection side that's quite frightening. Yeah,
I guess with lupus, to an extent, I guess your own body, right? So you know what is bad, what's manageable at home, when you need to see a doctor, when you need to see a nurse, whether or not you can increase your own dose at home and know that that will be enough, or whether you need something else to help lupus get under control again. Often, and I think we've talked about this, Livy, is it's actually not that pneumonia is a normal sickness, but it's almost the kind of common things in terms of infections that people get that are the ones that throw us the most, that we don't know how to manage, and that's where you spiral.
It's like that. Yeah. Like, I'm the worst if I get a stomach bug. It's the worst.
Yeah.
But it's funny. And I think as well, that capacity, and our capacity is always so full. We've just got so much we're dealing with, and then you add anything on top and it's just too much. And it should be, of course it should be. There's just a lot that goes into getting infections, and it's a side that is it's scary. I don't like I don't like that side of things. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it is so scary. And for those who don't live with chronic illness, don't know people particularly well that have a chronic illness, imagine what it's like for you as a person who has a healthy immune system getting pneumonia, how bad that is.
Yeah.
But then add on top of that a chronic illness like lupus, where your immune system is already just not working as it should, and how awful you feel when you've got pneumonia to then top it off with having to manage something else as well. It's just so hard, and it's not to diminish what it's like to have pneumonia when you have no other chronic illness, because pneumonia is horrendous regardless.
Mm.
It's just that element of, recovering from this isn't just recovering from pneumonia. It's now recovering from the flare up that has now likely happening because of lupus, and then what that's going to look like. And it's the whole unpredictability of everything. That it's just a domino effect, really.
It is. And then that throws in, the anxiety and that just feeling really unsafe in your body. And it's just that unpredictability of you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
often it's the worrying about, I don't know about you, but I often worry when I go to bed at night. Oh my gosh, when I wake up tomorrow, what's tomorrow going to look like in terms of lupus or my common variable immune deficiency or whatever it might be? You sort of forget about, the bugs that come home with your partner, with your child, whatever, or in your workplace, whatever it might be. You sort of forget that those are almost worse than the anxiety and worry you have about your normal lupus issues.
Exactly. It's just them two stacked on each other, or that's so much for the body to try and deal with.
Yeah.
And it's you can do your best to try and protect yourself. I know I'm so careful with myself, and my family and friends are so good at being like, hey, we've got bugs, we're not going to come near you. Yeah, I'm just very, very careful. But having a little one in the house just adds another, and I'm her mum. So when she's sick, she's going to need me and she wants me, and I will always be there. But it's kind of just throwing another little loop into things. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I understand that. It's hard to manage. I think when you live with a chronic illness, the unpredictability is probably one of the worst things that you can manage, because you can't control it. And we love to control things.
And so I guess that leads into this episode. And what we want to talk about today is things that we wish people could understand or know about chronic illness, and just the reality, the honest reality of what life is like. Because we get a lot that you look healthy, where you would look at us and not know that anything was wrong. And it's like you want to turn your body inside out and be like, hey, this is what's actually going on. So we wanted to explore some themes and just talk around what it's really like.
Absolutely. There's this idea of what a sick person should look like. Versus what a healthy person should look like. And it's, oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. I know people mean well when they say, oh, you're looking really well at the moment. I know that's coming from the kindest place, and it comes from a place of they know that it's been difficult. So I guess a little bit of worry, but it just makes me go, oh shit, what did I look like before? This thought that, am I meant to have something really obvious? And if I did, does that mean you treat me differently?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had moments of people.
What I get a lot, because I spend a lot of time on and off crutches, or I often have splints on my hands, things that are a bit more obvious physically. And it's really, really interesting. People, the first thing they'll say to me is, have you had an accident? They assume that I've had some accident and I've hurt myself. It's this really interesting thing that I go through in my head of, do I spend time explaining to this person what's actually going on? Do I just be like, oh no, and just leave it and that's it? Because it's sometimes I'm out and I just want to get something from the supermarket. I just want to do this. I don't want to have to talk about my illness.
Yeah.
And other times, I wish I kind of just had an accident, but no, this is just my normal. So I find that really interesting, how there's just that assumption that a young person on crutches or with splints on, it's automatically, oh, have you had an accident? I often would go into my daughter's kindy and pick her up, and the kids were just so sweet. They would often come up and be like, what happened? Or, oh, can I touch your crutches? And my daughter used to ask, oh, mummy, does that bother you? No, because kids are so genuinely interested. Yeah. And you just tell them, and then they're off playing again, and it's fine. Whereas adults, I don't feel like I have to give my private medical on what's going on for me.
You don't comment on people's weight.
No.
Why are we commenting on something that you can physically see
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. If you have questions about it, what are you trying to gain from it? When you say to someone, have you had an accident? And you don't know that person, what's the intention here? Are you going to offer help?
Yeah. Or you're just being nosy.
Yeah. Or are you just being nosy? And
Mhm.
a better way to approach that would be, do you need a hand with something? Because I can see that you've obviously hurt yourself. Cool.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's such a different thing.
Don't come straight in with what's going on. What I find really frustrating, I don't have the aids like you do,
Mm.
because as we've talked about, my joints aren't impacted. Mine often comes from medical professionals.
Okay.
Even if it's not even a doctor, I might be seeing a nurse for something and they'll go, you've got quite a complex history for someone so young.
That word, eh? Complex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's what is that? If I would like at what age is it okay to now have all these illnesses? I don't really understand that because none of our illnesses, what we have isn't normal. I hate saying that word, but isn't normal. So if I was in my 80s, does that make it okay
Is
to
it okay
have?
then? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a really interesting point.
I don't
Yeah.
know why they say that. Why do
And then
yeah,
what do you mean to say back? Okay,
I'd
like,
love
thank
to
you.
know. I know.
Like, what do we do with that?
I would love if there are people listening who are chronically ill and have had these types of comments. What if there's ever been a point that they've said something back?
I would
What are they
love
saying
to know
back?
that too. I would love to know.
Because I'd love
Yes.
to know what to say back. Because I expect it, but I still don't know how to answer it.
No,
Which,
I'm the same.
yeah,
And
it's
I think
weird.
of all these ideas of things I can say in my head, but in the moment, I'm like,
Yeah,
please don't talk to me.
yeah. If I'm just here for a blood test.
My husband was like, say you fell off a skateboard or got attacked by a shark, something cool.
Yeah, yes. I honestly, well, that's what my family used to say to me because I've got a ginormous scar that runs across my stomach from all the surgeries I've had. And when you're a teenager and you're wearing a bikini or crop tops, and I was always really conscious of this scar. And people always say, "Oh, you got into this massive like shark attack," but it's so precise. It's so clearly done by a
Yeah.
surgeon. It's just like get away with it, but I like the idea.
Yeah. That leads into what I've talked about in my episode, a little bit around me having a mobility pass. So I've had a lot of comments, a lot of stares, a lot of side eyes from the public when I park in the mobility park. I'm better at it now, but when I was younger, it just used to give me so much anxiety about whether or not I should use it. And I would often not use it just for the sake of not having people look at me or running the risk of someone saying something. And
Yeah.
this is just such a hard part of living with chronic illness, is that there is this help available and you need to use it. You should be using it. But there's that fear of judgment from other people,
Mm-hmm.
because in a lot of people's eyes, if they look at you, then they make that really quick judgment of, you don't look like there's anything wrong with you. And I remember when I was a teenager, I went out to a late night light show in town, and there was a group of my friends in the car with me, and we pulled up and I put my disability pass up and I was on crutches. And even being on crutches, this man approached me and he basically told me I shouldn't be parking there. That can't be my mobility pass. There was nothing wrong with me. And it was horrifying. I was about 16, 17. Yeah. I'd been away from school. I'd been so unwell, but there was this one thing that I was like, I'm going to go and do. And as a 16-year-old girl being approached by anyone, that really, really threw me. I remember I came home and I was just a mess. And I ended up writing a letter into like the editor, into like our local newspaper, because I was so sick of people just making this judgment call. And just, I felt like people needed another perspective, but it's still something I definitely struggle to use.
At such a young age, 16, you're impressionable.
Yes.
You've got this older person berating you around using something that you are well within your rights to use.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that and it obviously has stuck in your head all these years later. And I think that side of stuff is so unfair because you have no idea what you on that day have gone through to even get yourself in that car in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just because someone isn't elderly or isn't in a wheelchair or whatever it might be,
Yes.
doesn't mean
No.
they're not entitled to it.
No.
Because I don't know what the process is to get a mobility pack, but I'm imagining it's not simple.
No, you have to get it signed off from your GP. So your GP signs it off and then you pay. You have to pay to get one. And you can be signed off for, if you have a broken leg, you can be signed off for so many months, or you can get a more permanent one. And so it's not an easy process.
No.
And people are quite fiercely protective over them. And I really encourage, if someone's parked in there and they don't have a mobility pass up, if you feel safe enough and you want to,
Question it.
have a conversation. But if someone has a mobility pass up, this is none of your business. Keep moving. Just keep going.
If someone wants to take advantage of a situation like that when they don't need it, that says so much more about that person.
Definitely. So that whole invisible kind of side of things is something that it's a huge part of your life. It's a huge part of your life that you're often just trying to find your way through.
Yeah, the invisible part is really key. And for me, the really big invisible part of my life is the fatigue. And the difference in what fatigue is and chronic fatigue.
I think this is a great topic. We need to unpack this more. This is great.
Yeah. So a big part of chronic illness is fatigue, and not just lupus, in a lot of different conditions. And then obviously there is a condition itself, which is purely chronic fatigue. What I struggle with a lot is people's misunderstanding of what tired is, what fatigue is, and then what chronic fatigue is. And so starter for 10 is tiredness is you have had a bigger day than you had planned. So you woke up that morning, if we use the phone battery analogy, you were at 100% and then you did your normal routine. You went for a walk, you went to the gym, you went to work, whatever it might be. But then you did some extra things that you hadn't necessarily planned for. And so now you've finished your day and you're getting ready for bed. And if you were to look, if your body had a battery signal on it, it might be on 30%. And okay, that was a big day. And a lot of people have their watches, right, that have a body battery, which, by the way, if you have a chronic illness, that means absolutely nothing. I don't care what my body battery is because it's lying regardless. But then you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you'll be at 100% if you've had the right amount of sleep. With fatigue, you probably don't wake up at 100%, let's be real. You might wake up at, say, 50%. And you do your normal things in your day, you get to the end of the day and you go to bed and you're on 20%. You might wake up the next day on 30% if you're really lucky. And that will also depend on if you've slept well, if you've not been in pain, whatever that might be. And that's fatigue. That's not, I'll just have a bigger sleep tomorrow.
Make me feel better.
Yeah, because that doesn't work at all.
It's like that whole body exhaustion. I think that's how it's like your body feels like it's in that quicksand and it's just everything's heavy. There's kind of two things for me that I find, and it's talking. I often will find talking quite hard. And so I know I'm really struggling if all my fatigue's really bad. If even just holding a conversation is just so much work. The other thing that I often find, and I don't know about you, is eating. When I'm really not well and just so fatigued, I find the effort to just eat is just so intense. And it's interesting because it's not kind of associated with being tired, but it's like your body is just so tired and the effort to eat is just intense. And often another gauge, I know for me, is a shower. So if I can have a shower and then after my shower, I'm okay, I can get dressed straight away and I can move on to the next thing.
Or I don't have to get back into bed.
Exactly. Or I have my shower and then I have to sit on the end of the bed and just try and just have a little rest. And then I'm like, oh, do I have the strength to dry my hair, or what can I put on? Do I need to sleep after that? And so especially being unwell, being in that real cycle of literally for a couple of weeks, just having a shower has been the big part of my day, and then I'm done. And I find that really hard because I just had a shower. And that's me done.
It's a basic need.
Yeah, exactly. But that pulls back from that tiredness of I did a lot of things, so this makes sense. My body should be tired and I'm going to have a sleep and then I'm going to wake up and feel refreshed and better. Where fatigue is just that whole body symptoms where rest doesn't make it better.
My signs of fatigue is the same thing. The talking, I often go really inward. Also get a really sore back and I just have to lie on almost like a concrete floor, something really hard. That also trickles down into other parts of my body. I get quite sore in my legs and my arms. I always say if you had put yourself in concrete and let it dry and then tried to walk. That's what it feels like when I'm really, really fatigued. I start losing my voice. Like it gets really croaky
Yes.
and it
Yes.
hurts to talk.
To talk? Yes.
So it's not just the fatigue of talking, it physically hurts. I also want to touch on chronic fatigue because I think
Mm.
a lot of people don't quite understand chronic fatigue either. And fatigue itself is really hard to get out of. It's just kind of part of your life. But chronic fatigue is when you genuinely don't come out of that phase. And it's what you explained where you have a shower
Mm.
and that is your task for the day. You are done. That's chronic fatigue. And that's every single day. That doesn't get better. And that is so debilitating. Fatigue in itself is debilitating, but having that as your whole world, people just don't seem to understand it. It's, oh, are you just depressed?
Yeah.
No, I
Or
physically cannot do this.
It's so unfair how it's lumped in with that tiredness and just push through or try a bit harder.
Just go to bed earlier.
You can't, like, that does so much, and there's so much research out there that does so much more damage. You
So much
can't
more
push through
damage.
that. Like, that's your body. No.
It's telling you something. The fatigue stuff is the invisible part that I really struggle to explain to people. And sometimes I just wish people didn't see it as being lazy. And you don't think my friends and family, I know they don't see that as laziness. I do for some reason.
I was just going to say, is that, yeah.
Yeah.
And
This
is
idea
that,
that I have to be doing all of these things because otherwise I'm lazy, but then I know I'll pay the price tomorrow. But for some reason, I just pretend like that doesn't happen.
society places so much pressure on us to be busy and to be productive and to be just busy. I really struggle with that. And if you're not, then
You're lazy. Yeah, it's odd. And people who don't have to manage a fatigue situation, they might be able to, like, they can push themselves harder. Like, they might be really tired and, like, tiredness is shit. They might be really tired, but they can still keep going. And it's almost like they can go into negatives in their battery if they need, because tomorrow they might not be fully charged, but they're going to be pretty close to. And
exactly.
whereas we can't afford to go into negatives.
No.
I'm well
No.
and truly in negatives and I have been my whole life.
Yeah,
But I can't afford to do that because that comes at a price, and that price is my health. That's when
exactly.
lupus flares and I get sick with infections.
I just can't even imagine, even just talking about this, I can't imagine waking up with like 100% energy.
No, I mean,
Like, I honestly
would love to.
I can't imagine that. Yeah.
Nah, I know everyone wakes up tired,
Mm.
but I just can't imagine that tiredness going away.
And not having to think about, okay, so if I'm going to do this, then this is going to impact me on this way. And if I'm going to have a shower and then maybe go do another errand, like that's going to eat into the next couple of days' energy.
Yeah. I walk my dog today and then I go out for brunch with my friends after my walk. Okay, I'm going to need to get home by this time to have somewhat of a nap or a rest, a downtime, because I've got something that I need to go to this afternoon or this evening. And I know I want to do these things and I want to show up into these things because I don't want to always be saying no, but then it's like it's planning those rests and going, okay, well, if I don't have a rest, I'm going to have to drop something from tomorrow if I really want to go to this thing this afternoon. And okay, well, tomorrow I've got this thing. I can't do that. And it's just like this.
That juggling constantly, isn't it?
Constantly.
Yeah.
It's this calendar constantly in my mind of I do this and then I go do this. Okay, am I going to have a rest in time or am I going to have another coffee? Coffee doesn't really do anything, but I'll give it a go and fingers crossed today is the day that it does something.
Yeah.
Then that adds on into fatigue and kind of dealing with it is that it also comes with brain fog. Like it's the forgetfulness. It's I cannot see past this. This is it. And nothing more. If anything else enters my world right now,
it's just too much.
It's going to collapse.
Too much. Yeah. It always reminds me of the quote, and it goes something along. If you wake up and you have 30% to give and you give that 30%, then you know you've given your 100%. And I love that. And so it's waking up and being like, okay, so I am at this. And so what can I do with that? Instead of I need to get to 100% or I need to be there in order to be a productive person. And I think that's quite a nice way for me to rephrase and look at that, where it's, okay, so I may have had 30%, but I gave my 30%, therefore I gave my 100%. Yeah. I
really like that. I've never thought of it that way, but that's so true. And I guess that relieves a lot of pressure from the idea that you're not giving enough because you you haven't started with enough in the first place.
You are on the back foot. So much to even start with. And we are just our own worst enemies at this. We place so much pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's that very delicate line between having to, because the other option is you sink.
Yeah. Well, there's not really
And
another option.
that just becomes, versus pushing too much and making yourself unwell that way. So it's just such a balancing act. And it's something that and I know probably for you as well, all these years, I'm still learning it. I'm still learning it. And
Yeah.
it keeps changing. That goalpost changes every day to how I can function in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Every day is different. And that, I guess, circles back to the unpredictability is just,
Mm.
it's every day, every week is different. You think you know your limits, and then those limits change for whatever reason. And sometimes we don't even know the reason. And
No.
to be fair, it's often like a lurking bug that hasn't actually shown itself yet. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's constant and a lot to process and go through and understand what your body's doing. And I think we'll always be learning. We'll always be
Mm.
trying to figure this out. And I think that's fine. It's fine to not know. But I think it's important to check in with yourself as well and make sure that you're not pushing. And sometimes it's good to have someone to hold you account because, for instance, I think that you, Olivia, would have just jumped back onto recording podcasts when you were incredibly sick.
Yeah, I would have.
And yeah, you would have. And it's this idea that we have to show up and be there for people. But
Mm.
the more you do that, the more you actually impact yourself. And then you're not able to show up for people. So
No.
sometimes it's reminding yourself that you have to take pause because if you keep going, then eventually your ability to show up for everyone is just not going to be there at all. So
No.
that's part to learn. And we're both still learning that in our
Definitely.
30s.
And you're definitely the one that keeps me accountable to that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know that
really,
goes both ways.
yeah. I really struggle to say no. And I know that that's quite something that I've kind of had to learn and to work on. Your chronic illness makes you such a person who you want to give and you want to care and you want to be there for other people.
Mm.
And it's also just giving yourself that same grace to allow yourself to be the one to be taken care of and looked
Yeah.
after when you need it.
It's this idea that we look after ourselves and ourselves only because no one else is going to do it. And so we'll keep saying yes, we'll keep doing things, we'll keep pushing in the hopes that it will be fine because maybe it will be. It won't be.
No.
I can guarantee it won't be fine. But
No.
if we can tell ourselves that, then maybe it will be. And so, yeah, you do need to take a step back and look after yourself before anything else because you're never going to be able to show up, even if it's just that 30% with people, if you're not looking after yourself. I guess then, what's something that you think healthy people often misunderstand about living with chronic illness?
I think for me, it's all these kind of invisible battles that we've been talking about that we have every single day that people don't see and people don't understand. And they're often some of the hardest ones that we have to go through. It's that fight within you to get up in the morning when you are so sore and you can barely move or you haven't slept the night before, but you've got to get up and face the day. Just the strength it takes to do that over and over and over again. And just how relentless that is, how much it often breaks our hearts when we have to say no to things and we do have to miss out. And that never gets any easier. And just that guilt that you carry for letting people down. And just sometimes we just want people to be able to just really see what we go through every single day. So just checking in on your friends who are chronically ill, little message. We might not tell you what's going on, but
We'll tell you we're fine.
yeah, we'll probably tell you we're fine.
It's a lie.
But just knowing those messages where we still feel included and we still feel part of the world is just really, they mean so much to us because it can be so extremely lonely. So I really encourage everyone to just, anyone in general, just reach out to your friends, just send them a text now and again and just let those that you love know that you're there. Yeah, that was kind of my thing. What about you?
I think, really similar. But if I wasn't to say the same, it would probably be, it comes back to, I guess, like why we've called this outside the waiting room. And that a lot of people think that if you have a health condition, you're only sick when you're in hospital.
Yes.
And that everything then outside of hospital, you live just like them, that you come in with the same amount of energy. You come in with the same amount of, like, if you get a cold like they get a cold, then it will be the same. And yeah, and that is, it's really easy, right? It's really easy to make that assumption. Oh, well, when they get sick, and they just get more sick than someone else, and then they end up in hospital, and that's when they're sick. But otherwise, they're fine. And the reason why I think healthy people misunderstand that is because we do that. We convince them of that because we're so good at masking everything that's going on. So we're really good at masking, as you say, like the decisions we make every morning when we wake up, the things that we think about almost every second.
Yeah,
It's just like that
absolutely.
constant, like, what's sore now? What hurts now?
Mhm.
Is that pain something I have to worry about? Oh no, that's just, oh, it's gone now. Okay, cool, we're fine. Did I take my medicines? Did I, it's all of that. And it's, yeah, I guess there is a lot of misunderstanding that if we're not in hospital, then we're probably okay. And yeah, we're putting on a really good show. And
Mm.
that itself takes energy, which is so ironic. That takes away the battery that we have. Yeah. And so I guess it's just kind of being kinder, and not to say that the people that we love and who love us aren't kind to us, because of course they are. But I think it's just probably a good takeaway in general is that you never know what someone's going through and what the front that they're giving. And kind of comes back to what we talked about with ability packs. It's not really any of your business, but if you love someone who you know has a chronic condition, just dig a little deeper. When they say they're
Mm.
okay, they
They
probably
probably
aren't.
are.
Yeah. And it's not about saying, I know that's not true. It's about saying, it's maybe asking the question a little bit different. Like, are you okay? And if we say yes and go, okay, well, I've seen that you've been doing this XYZ lately. That feels like it would be a lot. Are you coping? It's just like reframing things a little bit and just remembering that sometimes we don't want to have to burden people, so we won't tell you. And yeah, the check-in is nice. And there's so much more than just the hospital.
Exactly,
Sometimes the
exactly.
hospital is the easiest part, to be honest.
Yeah,
Scariest, but easiest. That is episode number 3. That is like a proper episode, not a story
I
about
know, I
us.
know.
So we will hopefully, touch wood, be back next week where we will be talking about everything that is full-time or part-time or anytime work when you have a chronic illness and what that looks like. We'll be back next week. That is the plan.
That is the plan.
That
Yep.
is, yeah,
Touch wood.
as we have
But
established, doesn't always go to plan. But thank you everyone for sticking with us and riding it out until we got our Livy back up to where she needed to be.
we really appreciate all your support and care, and we feel incredibly grateful to have such amazing people around us. So thank you, everyone. And we will see you back, let's say, next week.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, if you can follow, share on whatever listening platform you're on at the moment, because that's how we get our reach out further. We want to be reaching our chronic illness communities and making sure that they feel less alone.
And one last thing, reach out to your loved ones. Go send them a text, tell someone you love them.
Thanks all. See you next week.
Bye.